Greetings. On behalf of the Salt Lake County Stormwater Coalition, I would like to welcome you to the 2022 Water Quality Fair. My name is Bob Thompson, and I'm the Watershed Section Manager at Salt Lake County. I manage the stormwater and watershed programs. We are so excited to work with almost 3,000 students from all areas across the Salt Lake Valley today. The stormwater and water quality professionals who are presenting today have chosen to host this event and share their knowledge with you because you are the future stewards of our natural resources. We feel it is critical to share our experience with you and emphasize the importance of taking care of our water. Residents of the Salt Lake Valley are incredibly lucky that much of our water falls from the sky as snow, then melts in the spring and flows downstream into our lakes and reservoirs, which we can use for drinking water, recreation, and for wildlife. Unfortunately, we don't always get as much snow as we would like, so it's incredibly important to take care of the water that we have. Today, we're going to learn from people who spend their careers trying to manage our water resources, and specifically, they're trying to keep pollution out of our water. The type of pollution we will be discussing today is called stormwater pollution. This type of pollution occurs when rain or snow falls on the ground and hits impervious surfaces like concrete or asphalt, or even the roofs on houses. It doesn't absorb into those surfaces, so it runs off downhill and usually ends up in gutters, which drain to underground pipes called storm drains. These drains empty into the nearest lake or stream, carrying all of the water and anything else that was on the pavement or in the gutter. I think we can all imagine the types of yuck that can be in the gutter. We can also imagine how many miles of gutters exist in the Salt Lake Valley. Far too many for just a few stormwater professionals like the ones you will meet today to clean up. The most important message we can leave you with today is that it is up to all of us to do our part to keep stormwater clean. Pick up after your pets. Sweep fertilizer and grass clippings back onto your lawn. Please don't litter, and pick up litter you find and place it in a garbage can or recycling bin. Convince your parents to wash their cars at commercial car washes where the water is treated before it enters our rivers and streams. And please never, never, never dump anything into a storm drain. Those are for clean stormwater only. If we all do our part, we can keep our water clean. Remember, we all live downstream. I hope you have a great time with our talented water professionals today. Enjoy the Water Quality Fair.
Hi, my name's Michelle, and I've taught middle school age students for over 30 years in the Salt Lake City schools, and I'm happy to be with you today to talk about something as important as water. We all know water is a precious resource when we stop to think about it. We couldn't live long without it, obviously. We want today's activities to make you think about your actions as they relate to this precious resource, not just today, but every day. So today we're going to build a watershed, but first we need to know, what is a watershed? A watershed is something every single person on our earth lives in a watershed. The word almost defines itself. We all know the term water. Shed refers to how the water flows as it reacts to gravity and topography. So a watershed is an area of land where all of the water drains off of it and goes to the lowest point, like a river, lake, or stream. If we lived along the coast, that place would be an ocean, but here along the Wasatch Front, our watershed is the Jordan River watershed. All of the tributaries lead to the Provo River, Utah Lake, the Jordan River, and the lowest point, the final destination, is the Great Salt Lake. This watershed is a 51-mile-long watershed. What falls into the watershed? Well, stormwater does. So we need to know what stormwater is. Stormwater is some of our fresh water that originates from rain, hail, sleet, or snow melt. Once it hits the ground, it's referred to as stormwater. Stormwater either sinks into permeable surfaces, like our lawns, gardens, or other ground surfaces that absorb water. That's a good thing because that helps slow the water down and it helps filter it and purify it again. Or it might land on impermeable surfaces like our streets, sidewalks, rooftops, parking lots, and roadways. Those surfaces are impermeable and the water runs off, oftentimes with a lot of force, dragging whatever is in its way straight to our gutters and into our storm drains that go straight to our rivers and so forth. And that water is untreated. So what about this fresh water? We need to know kind of just what a precious resource it is. So let's just have a tiny review of what is the water cycle, because it's miraculous. The water cycle is the Earth's amazing process of turning salt water into fresh water that we can use to sustain our lives. It's the continuous movement of water in and around our planet and atmosphere. Powered by the sun, water evaporates to form vapor, which condenses into clouds and then precipitates back into the earth, onto the earth, in the form of rain or snow. Thankfully, this wonderful fresh water falls right into our watersheds. Well, you're probably thinking, we have so much water. We're the blue planet, right? There's so much. But don't forget, most of that water is salt water that we can't drink or use to water our crops and animals. So to hopefully make you care that much more about today's activities, we need to understand how much of the Earth's water is fresh to begin with that falls into our watersheds. It's hard to think about all that water, but let's think of 100% of it as a $100 bill. That's all the water on our Earth. But we can't drink or use ocean water. So how much of the Earth's surface is just fresh water? Well, I know you're seated, but grab onto your desks, because when I learned this fact, it forever changed how I use and treat this precious resource. No joke. Only 1% of all the Earth's water is fresh water, and not all of that is currently flowing right into our watersheds, because some of it is in that continuous cycle, the water cycle, where some is caught in a cloud or on the way up to being a cloud or is frozen in solid ice. So only 1/3 of 1%, or 33 cents out of that $100 bill, is fresh liquid water that has to fall into all of the Earth's watersheds for everyone to drink, water their crops and animals, as well as to recreate on, like swimming, fishing, boating on our lakes, rivers, and streams. So let's get busy making our watershed models, all while thinking about what actions we take to protect this precious freshwater resource every day. Because don't forget, Droplet will tell you, we all live downstream, right? So we have some materials. You should have a file folder, a piece of type paper, about 5 markers, some tape, and a water bottle. Your teacher probably has the water bottle. I'm going to angle my camera down now. So as we make the watershed, it'll feel like a cooking show where I do some of the demonstration. You're going to open this up. You can work with me. Oops, I have 2 in here. You don't need 2. Just 1 file folder. 1 person on your team, just start folding up the edges, and you don't need to measure it. Just do like so all the way around. And 1 person needs to take the paper, and we're going to start creating a topographical map by just smashing the paper into, we're munching it and creasing those edges. Don't make it too tight, because then when you go to open it, it might rip. So we're going to use our imaginations to envision a beautiful mountain chain as we relearn the terminology that we just learned about the watershed. Okay, I'm moving ahead now. This is how, oh, that was I've already done that one, sorry. Now you're going to take your blue marker and say, I'm just a little farther along in the process. So that 1 munched wrinkle paper, you're going to kind of just lay it out. See how my little tray looks like a cookie tray. All 4 sides are folded up. And then all I've done is added a smidge of tape to hold the shape. So while you're coloring the edges, the high mountain edges with your marker, I'll just remind you that this is a watershed. And we said that the watershed is affected by how, when the fresh water hits, how gravity and topography affects it. So you can kind of look at my model, and we can kind of forecast when water comes down, some will fall this direction on the ridge and this way. Some might get caught in the topography over here and form a little mountain lake. In this one giant watershed, there's actually going to be several other little watersheds. So this is what you're shooting for. I know we're moving kind of fast, but you'll get caught up. And if not, you can finish it later. Do not wet yours yet. While you're still coloring, I'm going to show you what happens to see if we predicted correctly. I'm spraying it. Now this is our stormwater, right? Precipitation, the fresh water falling out of the sky. And sure enough, it's starting to run just like we predicted. And you can see where there are lakes forming, possibly streams down this ridge of the mountains. It's forming in a different way. So all of these little areas have fresh water. But today we said that we wanted to see how our human activity affects the watershed. I don't see me in there. I don't see you in there. So that's why I don't want you to wet yours yet, because we need to think about what's a little bit farther downstream, because we all live downstream. Farther down, this looks like it might be our Wasatch Mountain Range. So here you can see I've added some houses. I've made them red with the red marker because we have toxins and poisons in our house and in our garages, paint and so forth, that we don't want to get it into our water or down the drains. We have to have farming because we have fertilizers and things that we need to put on crops. Over here, I have some brown that you'll want to add. It's logs or dirt. We have to cut down trees to grow our to not grow our houses, to build our houses. Or maybe there was a forest fire that left the earth bare, and that might affect and get into our water. Any human activity, like people who are boating along there or mountain climbing. On the back side of these mountains, we have some skiers. Over here, you can really laugh at my mountain bikes. We have some mountain bikers. So all those colors are representative of some of the human activity in our urban watershed. Remember, many of these surfaces are not permeable. They're impermeable. When they get wet and the stormwater starts running, they can drag all kinds of toxins, seen and unseen, right along with everything. So I'm going to spray this, and we're going to see just how different it might look. So all of the activities today should be reminding you that we all live downstream. So we need to make sure that the only things going into our gutters and our storm drains is water and nothing else, because that water doesn't get treated. Here, see on the backside in this area, this is where I'd want to get my drinking water. Do you see how it's all still blue? Whereas our urban areas, we have to be careful so that we don't damage wildlife and so forth the best we can. So when you're on your mountain bike, stay on trails so you don't crush up the dirt more and get it into the watershed. Pick up trash, get the things out of there, so that we're not getting things down into our watershed areas, our rivers, lakes, and streams. Because again, remember why? We all live downstream. I hope you like the activity. You can always take a little longer to finish it on your own time. I'm going to turn the time over now to Hannah Murphy. She's up next, and thank you so much for letting me join you today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle, for that presentation. I'm next. Hi, everyone. My name's Hannah Murphy. I am a watershed planner scientist for Salt Lake County Watershed. I am going to talk to you guys today about bugs and pH and kind of their relationship and how they help us identify different water quality parameters. That's largely what I do for the watershed. I take water quality samples, I do restoration work, I look at bugs, I look at things in the environment and how they all affect our water quality. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is bugs. And specifically, we're going to be talking about macroinvertebrates. And if you break that word up into two separate parts, you have macro meaning big and invertebrate meaning without a spine. So we as humans have vertebrae, so we are not invertebrates. So these bugs don't have spines. And then when you think of the word macro too, while these bugs are very small, they can be seen largely under a microscope, which is why we call them macro. But these bugs are found all over streams and rivers, under rocks. They live in the water and they need the water to survive. And we look at all different kinds of these bugs to kind of tell what the water is doing, whether it's good or bad. We look at other water quality parameters, pH being one of them. And the importance of these bugs is a big one because they are what we call kind of the bottom of the food pyramid chain, if you want to call that. Kind of the another way to think of it would be like a trophic web or the web of life. So these bugs provide food for other different animals and plants and parts of the ecosystem. For example, fish need these bugs to survive because this is what the fish eat. And then above fish, you have birds probably eat fish as well. So the bugs are really supporting the pyramid of life, or the food web that we like to call it. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is the pH, and we'll get into pH in our experiment a little bit later, but pH is basically a range from 0 to 14, indicating how acidic or how basic water is. Water is generally neutral around 7, but a lot of different things factor a high or low pH. You guys should have a couple handouts with you in your groups. And the first one I want to talk about is our macroinvertebrate key. Looks like this. And I'm going to point out 2 bugs on here that we'll be talking about specifically. They are actually next to each other on this chart, the caddisfly and the mayfly. So even though these 2 bugs have similar characteristics, being 1 or 2 tails and without wings, they might not prefer the same kinds of water. And that's what our experiment is going to help us find out today. Like I said, there's hundreds of these bugs and they live under rocks, and we go out in the field and we are able to pick up these rocks and kind of kick up sediment and see what kinds of bugs are living there. Not only are they good for food and for other plants and animals, but they tell us a lot of different stuff about the water. The importance is really a diversity of bugs. We want to see a lot of different bugs because that's a good indication that it's a healthy ecosystem or a healthy stream. We don't want to see one of just one kind of bug or just one kind of plant or fish, etc., just like we would in other parts, or one animal. It's really important to have a diversity of different bugs in our streams. And we have all over the Salt Lake Valley, we have several watersheds that we survey and take water quality samples from. And we collect these bugs as well. And they really help us indicate what kinds of things are living there, whether the water is good or bad, etc. We will move on to the experiment portion of our presentation. And I'm going to turn the camera down for this, but I'm going to lay out everything too. And if you aren't able to catch up or I'm moving too fast, take your time. It's not a rush. You can also pause the video too. But I'll try and lay everything out and give you guys a good example of what we're going to work through. So while we're starting to set this up, I want you guys to be thinking about these 2 particular bugs, the caddisfly and the mayfly. What kinds of water might they prefer? Low pH could be a potential for the caddisfly, while mayflies might like a higher pH. It's really going to depend on the pH in the water to determine the bugs, and vice versa, sort of. They indicate what kinds of pH we have, and pH might be an indication of what kind of bugs we have, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll tilt this down and we will start our pH experiment. So we should have some things in our groups, the first being 3 cups, and I'll set those here. We will also have our test tubes. We'll have one, I'm going to flip these around. We'll have one of lemon juice and one of laundry detergent. We'll also have a pipette, maybe 1 or 2. We will have a stirring stick and we'll use that for the laundry detergent. We will also have some pH test strips, and there's 80 in that packet, so there should be plenty for the group. We will only need 3 for this experiment. Someone in the group may have grabbed water, or maybe your teacher provided some water for you. And then the last thing I want to point out before we start is let's take a look at this pH chart. So you should all have a copy of the pH chart as well. And like I said, it's a range from 0 to 14. Acidic, meaning a lower pH, would be on this left side. That would be anywhere from 0 to 7 is considered acidic. And then we have above that, above 7, we have alkaline, or what we call basic, and that runs anything from 7 to 14. And remember, water is neutral right in the middle around 7, or generally it should be. Again, think about what kinds of water, what kinds of pH and water this caddisfly and mayfly may like. We're going to get started with the experiment. The first thing you're going to do is grab some water, and you're going to fill each of the cups about half full, but definitely doesn't need to be any more than half full. So we have those about half full. I'm gonna pour a little, make it a little even. And the first thing we're gonna do is take our lemon juice and put that in the cup on the left. And you can dump the whole test tube in there. And give that a stir. You can use the pipette as well if you prefer. The second cup we're going to leave blank because that's our water and that's what we want to represent as neutral. So nothing will be done there. And then the third cup, we're going to dump all of the laundry detergent in it. And make sure you use the stick to scoop all the laundry detergent out. There's quite a bit in there. We want to make sure we get it all in there. And then we're going to give it a really good stir. The laundry detergent is concentrated, so we're going to really mix that one up. You can even make some bubbles. Yes, I know. We're not too old to make bubbles. Okay. A good stir. Okay, now that we have our 3 cups, we're going to do our pH test strips. And you can take 3 test strips out of the packet. And they kind of are stuck together, so just work to pull some apart. So here's a few. And you can actually just set a few in front of your cups for now. I'll set one here, and one here. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is the lemon juice. And you just want to stick it straight in and right back out. It'll be a quick sample. We'll set that in front of it to let it dry. The second one is our water, right? So we're just going to do a sample there as well. And then the third one we'll do with the laundry detergent. Set that there. And while those are drying, again, be thinking about what kinds of water or results we might get with our pH chart. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret now while we're waiting for the results. The caddisfly is generally going to like a low pH. Mayflies might be similar, but they might like something higher. While we're waiting for those to dry, I'm going to see if I can share a picture with you guys as well. I apologize, it's taking a minute. So this first picture is a caddisfly. And this is under a microscope. I want you guys to remind you guys of that. It's generally going to be small in size, but under a microscope, we can see a lot of different details. This second one is the mayfly larva. And these are different stages of life for the mayfly, but this is what it would look like under a microscope as well. So we have our test strips. This first one, the lemon juice, is very acidic, we can see. So it's probably ranging between a 2 and a 3. Our second one, the water, is probably about a 6 or a 7, which is good. We want it to be fairly neutral. Our laundry detergent, however, generally it should be around a 6 or a 7. It's kind of floating more on the acidic side. This could be for a few things. Some laundry detergents have less chemicals, so they might be on the acidic side, but generally laundry detergent would have an alkaline or basic pH. That concludes the experiment. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. You would contact the Stormwater Coalition website, and that would be stormwatercoalition.org/fair regarding today's presentations. I just want to remind you guys again, too, the importance of this water quality and the bugs and macros within the water quality is that it indicates what kinds of things we have in the water. Without the bugs, we wouldn't be able to tell a lot of stuff about what the water is doing or what kinds of things we have going on. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining the presentation, and I will turn the time over to Greta. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi everybody, my name is Greta Hamilton. I work for Salt Lake County Stormwater. Some of my duties include inspecting construction sites and responding to spills in the storm drains and our waterways. What we're going to be working on today is the stormwater scavenger hunt. It's pseudo scavenger hunt. Can't really send you outside and still watch the video, and it's more like blackout bingo with a free space in the middle. So just kind of take a minute to look over this, and what I'd like you to do to start while I'm talking, like work on this while I'm talking and help your friends, is to circle 5 simple acts that you can do every day to help improve water quality. See if you can find all 5. If you can't find all 5, it's all right. But help your friends, and I'm going to give you the answers right now. Here we go. So the 5 simple acts that you can do every day is bag and trash your pet waste, pick up and throw away trash, recycle plastics, use household chemicals sparingly and safely dispose, fix auto leaks and recycle oil, mulch or compost grass, leaves, and yard debris. Did you get all 5? If not, you've got them now, so go ahead and circle those. The other thing is there's a little square at the top of your scavenger hunt sheet at the very end of the top row that says, what does BMP stand for? BMP is office lingo for best management practices. We're going to refer to these as simple acts. All right, so think about how many storm drains you walked past on your way to school this morning. And do you remember what Bob was saying about the biggest difference between the sewer system and our storm drains? Do you remember that he said that everything that goes into the storm drains is not treated? So this goes directly into our waterways. Everything that comes off the asphalt and the concrete goes right down these storm drains and straight into our rivers and streams. Anytime it snows, rains, any overwatering, when our sprinklers are going crazy and spraying all over the road, it's picking up all that stuff on the road and it's carrying them right down these storm drains. They're everywhere, and they are really important to protect. Think about how much trash you walked past on the way to school today. Did you walk past cigarette butts, plastic wrappers, plastic bottles, combs, toys? It's kind of crazy how much stuff winds up in our gutters and then winds up right on top of our storm drains. The simple act of picking up the trash prevents water flow problems, bank erosion problems, water contamination, and it prevents the wildlife from eating it, right? We don't want these little guys having microplastics in their stomachs. On your scavenger hunt sheet, name an action that you can take when you see some trash on the ground. Also, I don't know if they're still teaching the 3 R's, but when I was a kid, we were taught reduce, reuse, recycle. And we all know that the recycling system is a little bit broken right now. So the best options are to reduce what we use and to use reusable items. And you probably use a bunch of these every day that you don't even realize that you're using, like your backpacks, your lunch bags, water bottles, mugs, straws, plates. And then you'll just want to pop over on your scavenger hunt sheet and write down a reusable that you use every day. Household chemicals. These chemicals are harmful and toxic to both humans and wildlife. It's so important that these never ever get dumped down the drain. And also that you follow the directions explicitly. Some of these things could be like bleach, bug spray, antifreeze, nail polish remover. Write down on your scavenger hunt sheet one that you can think of that I probably missed. And there is also, I just want to let you guys know about the disposal option, because some people don't actually know that it's free to take any of your household hazardous chemicals out to the dump, and they will take it for free and they will safely dispose of it. Doesn't matter if it's full, half full, couple drops left in the bottle, but it is never okay to dump these down the drain. Cars, who's thinking about driving? Cars are so smart these days. More and more people are not able to work on them themselves anymore, which means that there's less fluids and stuff leaking onto our driveways, which is great, right? Especially with the electric vehicles. There's no oil leaking out of the electric vehicles, but we've got a long way before all the cars are replaced by those. There's still plenty of home oil changes, and you're probably like, well, how can I even help with this? Like, I don't drive. I don't even change my own oil. Well, a lot of what you guys can do involves educating adults. We get lazy. We forget. Sometimes we're just so busy we don't notice. So like if you see an oil spill in your parents' driveway, let them know that, hey, you could throw some kitty litter down on there. It's going to soak it up, and we'll sweep it up and put it in the garbage, and it is all taken care of. Never, ever hose anything down the storm drain, and definitely don't hose car fluids down the driveway into the storm drains either. Car washes, the nice thing about modern car washes is they recycle the water, and whatever they don't recycle, they send down to the sewer to be treated. So they're not sending pollutants down the storm drains or down our driveways. So the best option, if car washing is not possible at a car wash, I mean, not everybody has the monthly fast pass to get their car washed, right? I know I don't. You'll want to try to wash your car on your lawn if you can, because the lawn will filter out some of those pollutants and stuff before they make it to the waterways. And then also remember that safe cleaners, safe and non-toxic cleaners, once they mix with the chemicals, the grease, the metals, fluids of these cars, they're no longer safe. So we definitely want to make sure that we're being responsible with washing our cars. And like I said, it probably doesn't really involve you too much, but remind the adult in your life. Yard stuff. You guys probably aren't doing a ton of this either, right? But think about the last time you were walking on the sidewalk and saw those little green balls all over the sidewalk. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think that they were bug eggs. But those are actually little fertilizer balls. And what do you think happens to those little fertilizer balls as soon as it rains or we run our sprinklers? Those little guys float right down into the storm drains. And the problem with them is that they then increase the nitrogen and the phosphorus in our water systems. This has a negative effect on the ecosystems. You guys have all heard about the HABs, the harmful algal blooms. You haven't been able to use Utah Lake for recreation. The Jordan River has had sections closed down because of this stuff. It's really important what you can do is sweep these up, or remind an adult to sweep these up. Leaves and grass, you want to mulch those as much as you can. They're natural, right? And people always kind of wonder, well, what's the problem? Why can't these be out here. And the problem is that we've created so much cement and asphalt in the cities that these leaves don't have anywhere to decay. And so when they travel down the storm drains, they go into our waterways where they start to decay in the water. And when that happens, it uses up all the oxygen that the macroinvertebrates and our fish need to survive. It can cause flooding, which neighbors are never really too stoked on when the storm drains are full, and then so is their basement, right? So again, if you don't have a lot of control over this, or you're not able to sweep up, help the adult who's doing this stuff sweep up, explain to them and just remind them, because we do forget. We get forgetful. We're very busy people these days. Yay, poop. That's what we all say when we step in it, right? Yeah, no, me either. Now, it's not only aggravating, it's unsanitary. People do wonder what is the problem with dog poop, right? It's natural. Humans poop, animals poop. The problem is that dog poop is full of bacteria and parasites, especially if they're fed a meat diet. And these parasites and bacteria, when the levels get too high, it makes it unsafe for recreation. It makes it unsafe for swimming, kayaking. It makes it pretty much unsafe to get in the water. If you don't know what E. coli is, you've probably at some point had or known somebody who's had a really bad case of food poisoning. It's terrible, right? They've probably had an encounter with E. coli. E. coli is responsible for 260,000 illnesses every year and 100 deaths, which is too many people to die from food poisoning and food poisoning symptoms. Okay, so this question on your scavenger hunt is actually going to be for 2 different boxes. It's going to ask you to name a local waterway, and it's also going to ask you to name an impaired stream. Well, unfortunately, guys, every stream basically at the mouth of both canyons and all the way out west to the Ochres, anything that's kind of in that central city system is impaired. So that's Immigration, that's Mill Creek, that's Big Cottonwood, Little Cottonwood, Midas Creek, Rose Creek, and the Jordan River. Those are all impaired for E. coli. So none of those creeks are safe to drink the water by any means. So what can you do, right? The best thing you can do is bag the dog poop and make sure it gets thrown away. When you bag it and it just gets left, then we're twofold adding to pollution. We've got E. coli pollution and plastic pollution. So make sure that if you are responsible in picking it up, don't leave it. All right, finally, guys, we're going to go to the very bottom row here at the very last corner, and we're going to circle yes. And this is us making a pledge to protect our water, a pledge to not waste it, keep storm drains clear, and help educate others. Because really that's the biggest tool that we have to help each other, is to get the word out and help educate others. Because a lot of people just don't know. I think most people are most surprised by the fact that water isn't treated once it hits the storm drain, and then it goes right into our rivers. And then finally, I just want to tell you guys about part of my job. So if you see somebody dumping in the storm drain, call this number, 801-580-6681, and it's not going to call the police or anything. What it's going to do is it's going to get the proper people like me out to the site to get these cleaned up before they hit our waterways. It's super important. And thank you guys so much for having me, and I'm gonna turn it over to Carrie now, and she's gonna take it from here. Thank you again. Have a good one.
Hi, I'm Carrie Cutler, and I help the Stormwater Coalition with outreach and education, and I'm here with an exciting announcement. We're now kicking off the 2022 6th, 7th, and 8th grade water science and engineering competition. We invite students in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades to come up with a solution to one of the water threats or challenges, maybe something you heard today or something else you feel passionate about. And then to enter, you would make an amateur video, probably on a phone, and then you would submit that video along with, there's an entry form that you'll find at stormwatercoalition.org. We'll provide lots more information for teachers this coming fall. The entries are not due until November 18th, so we have a lot of time to work on it. And then we'll announce the winners of $100 Amazon gift cards on December the 1st. And then there's a grand prize winner from all of the various categories who will win a $250 Amazon gift card and some really cool gifts from the Stormwater Coalition. So if you're passionate about water and science or engineering like we are, we would love to have you enter. Thanks very much. And now I'm going to turn it over to Josh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Michael, and I work with our stormwater team at Salt Lake County. I also help run our Stormwater Coalition. The Salt Lake County Stormwater Coalition is a group of cities throughout Salt Lake Valley that work as a team to help keep our stormwater clean. One of the ways we do this is by providing education and information about stormwater to the residents in the valley. This water quality fair is one of those ways that we're able to do that. So let's review what we've learned today. Michelle helped us create our own watersheds so that we could visually see that we all live downstream. Hannah turned us into scientists and taught us about bugs, the pH scale, and how stormwater affects our lakes, streams, and rivers. Greta guided us on a scavenger hunt and showed us the things we can do to keep our stormwater clean. And now it's your turn. So as a class, I want you to talk about what you've learned today. Share your favorite parts and what you learned from your group activities. Then go home and share what you've learned with your parents, friends, and maybe even your neighbors. We are counting on all of you guys to teach others what you've learned today because each of you plays an important role in keeping our stormwater clean. So on behalf of everyone from the Salt Lake County Stormwater Coalition, thank you and have a great day, guys.